He walked into the hospital clutching his chest. Every breath was fire. Every step felt heavier than the last. But instead of being met with care, he was met with suspicion. This man was a soldier, a hero, a veteran who had risked his life for his country. Yet in this moment, in his own hometown, he was treated like he didn't belong. And hours later, the very same hospital that dismissed him would be begging for forgiveness, because overnight, his face would be on every screen in America, and the whole world would learn the truth. This is the story of Marcus Lee. Marcus Lee, 42 years old, U.S. Army veteran, 3 tours overseas, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. But tonight, none of that mattered. He stumbled into the ER at 11:48 p.m. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The waiting room half empty. Marcus pressed a hand to his chest. "Please?" "I think it's my heart," he whispered. Behind the counter, a nurse barely looked up. She was tapping at her computer, chewing gum. "You'll have to take a seat, sir. Fill this out." Marcus tried again. "Ma'am, I'm not sure I can breathe. Please, I need—" The nurse's eyes narrowed. "You'll need to wait. There are others ahead of you." Marcus turned, scanning the room. A few people sat slumped in chairs. A teenager with a sprained wrist. A woman scrolling on her phone. No one looked like they were dying, but the nurse's expression was clear. "Sit down. Don't make trouble." Marcus lowered himself into a chair. His chest tightened. Sweat trickled down his temple. Minutes ticked by. When he stood again, staggering to the desk, another staff member snapped. "Sir, we told you already. Wait your turn." The words cut deep in the pain in his chest. "Wait your turn." Marcus sat again, his breath shallow, his heart racing. One patient across the room muttered, "He probably doesn't even have insurance." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Afghanistan, about the convoy that went up in flames, about the brothers he dragged out of the fire one by one. And he thought about this moment, how he could survive war, but not prejudice in his own country. Hours later, with no doctor, no diagnosis, no help, Marcus walked out, alone. The next morning, the world changed. Television anchors interrupted their broadcasts. Breaking news this morning. Sergeant Marcus Lee will be awarded the Medal of Honor by the President of the United States. Photos of Marcus in uniform filled the screen. Stories of his bravery spilled across the airwaves. Viewers learned how Marcus had carried 3 men from a burning convoy while enemy fire rained down. How he had refused evacuation until his entire unit was safe. How his heroism had become legend. America now knew his name. And so did the hospital. Phones rang off the hook. Reporters swarmed the ER. Cameras pointed at the very doors Marcus had walked through hours earlier. And the question on everyone's lips? How could this hospital refuse treatment to a Medal of Honor recipient? The administrators scrambled. They issued statements about protocols and miscommunication. But the damage was done. Nurses who had turned their backs now insisted, "We didn't realize how serious it was." The truth? They didn't see a hero that night. They saw a black man in plain clothes. And they dismissed him. Now the entire nation was watching. Days later, the White House was filled with reporters, veterans, and dignitaries. Marcus stood tall in his dress blues, his chest heavy with ribbons, the Medal of Honor about to be placed around his neck. The president spoke. "Today we honor a man who risked his life, not once, not twice, but over and over again, so that his brothers in arms could live. Sergeant Marcus Lee is a true American hero." As the medal rested against his chest, the audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered. Some stood with tears in their eyes. Marcus looked out across the sea of faces. He thought about the hospital waiting room, about the nurse who wouldn't look him in the eye, about the whispers that he didn't belong. And then he thought about this moment, the truth shining for the whole world to see. Respect, dignity, honor, all of it had been denied to him that night. But here, before his country, it was undeniable. Back at the hospital, the fallout was brutal. The head administrator resigned. Staff faced investigations. Lawsuits loomed. The community turned against them. And their reputation? Destroyed. Marcus never returned to that hospital again. He didn't need to, because he had something greater. Not just the Medal of Honor, not just the applause of a nation, but the truth that no prejudice, no ignorance, no dismissal could erase what he had earned. Marcus Lee's story isn't just about one man. It's about dignity, about respect, about what we owe to those who sacrifice for freedom. No one, no veteran, no mother, no child should ever walk into a hospital and be treated like they don't matter. But Marcus's story carries a message that the truth will always surface, that honor cannot be denied, and that sometimes justice comes not to the halls of power, but through the eyes of a nation that refuses to look away, because respect is not optional, and dignity is not negotiable. And Sergeant Marcus Lee, he reminded the world that some honors can never be refused.